This is episode 6 of Hoops Forum presented by Radius Athletics and a Quick Timeout podcast. I'm Coach Tony Miller, and I'm joined again this week by my co-host, Randy Sherman. As always, we want to thank our sponsors over at 323 Sports. If you're in the market for a team dealer, look no farther than 323 Sports. 323 Sports can help you with gear, equipment, apparel, really anything that you need for your sports program. So to find out more about what they can do for your sports organization, visit 323sports.com, or you can get in contact with a rep today, sales@323sports.com. They'll be sure to do it right for your sports team. For those watching live, we'd love for you to be a part of our conversation. If you'd like to share thoughts on things, or if you'd like for us to answer any questions you might have, all you need to do is reply to this post here on Twitter, and we'll be sure to work those comments into the broadcast. For the first time in this show's history, Randy and I are excited to have a guest with us. We have one guest joining us right now, and hopefully we'll have another one here coming up in just a few minutes. But we'd like to welcome to the show Coach Burton Uwarow. He's the head men's basketball coach at Bob Jones University. Coach, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Welcome.
Some might be a bit confused as to why basketball coaches are free on a Friday night. Typically, they have games going on. A little bit unique time of the year right now. Coach Uwarow does have a game tomorrow. He and I have a game tomorrow. And Coach Whitehart, who will be joining us here in just a few moments, he's in the middle of a little break before the playoffs start. And so with that in mind, we wanted to have these guys in to talk to us about kind of end of season preparations and what that looks for. Coach Whitehart, thanks for joining us tonight. Glad to have you here with us.
Glad you can have me, just running in from a scout. So it's one page to the next.
That's right. Well, we're going to kind of incorporate all of that into what we're doing here. So, like I said, end of season as well as playoff preparations is our topic for tonight for our Hoops Forum. Our Twitter poll, we do one of these things each week. If you haven't been a part of these already, you can jump in and vote on these polls each week. You can find these on my Twitter account and then also on Randy's Twitter account. But our Twitter poll this week, are your late season practices considerably different than your early and mid-season practices? And if so, what changes? Despite all the lopsidedness that I see in this poll, I actually was a little surprised that only 17% said that they didn't change much. I'll start with you, Coach Whitehart. Your response to this poll would be what?
You know, we're a lot shorter this time of year. We're trying to just fine-tune things. Early in the year, we might go 2.5 hours. Right now, we're about an hour to an hour and 15 out. We're trying to conserve legs, and we're just adding in wrinkles and adjustments, small things. I'm not trying to overwhelm them, trying to recreate the wheel. At this point, we're trying to keep it simple so our kids aren't overwhelmed. So we're in about an hour and 15, and we're done.
Coach Uwarow, what biggest changes would you say you all do?
Yeah, I would pretty much say the same thing. I tweeted out the other day about what you're doing right now is taking things away. I don't really think that it should be part of year in, year out philosophy to be adding things right now. I think that makes your guys not trust in what you've been doing all year. And I really think the more that players have to think through things, the more slow they become, and you want them to act instinctual. And so, we tried things through a regular season, and we've got enough data right now about what works and doesn't work. And I would look more at Coach Whitehart said, I would rather have a hard 45-minute an hour of practice than I would trying to add things and try to do everything with X's and O's. Your X's and O's should be pretty refined by right now.
Yeah.
About like preparation for actual games themselves. Like does the preparation change for an opponent, even if it's an opponent that you're playing again? So somebody that you've played earlier on in the year. Does anything about that, whether that is a scout like you guys are just doing there, Coach Whitehart, or film or anything connected to that, does a scout from earlier in the season look any different from scout right now in the season?
Are you asking me that?
Yes, sir.
We're habitual, man. Our kids know what's coming at them. I mean, we're so regimented in our preparation and our pregame. I mean, everything down to a T. Our kids could be blindfolded and walk you through everything that we do. We just don't change anything. We've been successful in what we're doing. And we keep it simple. They know what's expected. And I think now if you start throwing in curveballs and starting to add on all these additional scouting mechanisms, I feel like you lose your kids. They know what's expected. They know what we're playing for at this point in the postseason. So, there again, you stay with what your regimen is.
Yeah, I would say for myself during my time as a coach, I actually responded no. I was one of the 17% that practices. I guess it was that word considerably that kind of made me want to answer no. They didn't look considerably different from a different time of the year. And I would echo what Coach Whitehart said about, we're creatures of habit and routine. You hear that all the time, whether it be NFL or NBA, kind of like this is what our Tuesday is and this is what our Wednesday is and things like that. Like I do think there's value to having sort of that cycle of game preparation. That's sort of like, we know what to expect when it's this practice 2 days out of a game, 1 day out of a game. And I was really reluctant to alter that. So I answered no, they wouldn't look considerably different, because I tried to sort of start to build that cycle as early as I could as soon as we could convene practices with our players.
Burton, for us playing, we'll be playing an opponent that we haven't played in a year. And so even preparing for somebody like that, and then the possibility of preparing for somebody the very next day who we have already played, but it's already been a considerable amount of time. What changes or what adjustments do you have in mind, or even like what approach are you hoping that the players will take or that you'll take to prepare them for that?
We always say as coaches that you don't want a championship on the day of the game. You do it in the months and weeks in preparation for it. And I think that, both of us know what's coming. We do a good job scouting, and, there's only so many flare screens, cross screens, whatever you're going to face. And I feel like we all of our practices work on defending those actions. And so with our young team, the only thing I might change, just because we've never played them and we're going to face them in a conference tournament, is just give them some film. I don't want them to be overly concerned with anybody else, but I do want them to be familiar enough with the style so we don't spend the first 5 minutes of the game, trying to adjust. And so I may do a little bit more film. I think one thing that I would change this type of year, it wouldn't be a thing to change, but just a time amount of free throw shooting, game-like shooting, stuff like that. I think a lot more shooting right now, and we already spend a ton of time shooting in our practices, but I think we're doing a lot more right now, and it's just parts of our actions or something like that we're incorporating into shooting drills and kind of taking care of a couple things at one time.
Yeah.
Coach Whitehart, do you have them shoot outside of practice? Like, do you tell them to shoot a certain amount of shots outside in addition to shooting in practice?
Well, I'm going to give a shout out here. We've got a new facility here right in Milton area. It's called Shoot 360. I mean, it is state of the art with everything the NBA uses as part of what they do in their format. So our kids live in there outside of practice. For us to have that in our backyard is unbelievable. But for example, today's practice was 100%, an hour and a half of nothing but breakdown drills out of our offense in shooting. We didn't run offense. Everything was individual, getting shots up for an hour and a half within all the schemes that we do, whether it be split action, whether it would be coming off a double down, whatever it was, everything was an hour and a half of shooting within our offense broken down in drills.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, I think this time of year when I reflect back specific to actually like this exact date would be playoff time for where I coached. We're in bracket play right now, so we would be in bracket play right now. So I felt like we could be more efficient then, because now the JV and the freshmen, they're kind of gone, and it's just my 12 girls or guys or whatever, and we could really get move a little quicker, move a little more efficiently, have a little bit better player to coach ratio, because now it's just the varsity team and the bracket play with my full staff there. So, you know, we could probably get a little bit more done with just a smaller group and better coach to player ratio during this time of year. So that's something that I always looked forward to, that period of time, not only because it's the most fun time of the year and everyone gets excited about the playoffs, but man, we can really we can split, you know, send 3 coaches, different goals, working on different things with smaller groups and really kind of feel like we're really, you know, drilling deep.
How much 5-on-5 do you all do? And like, to what degree? Is it putting a certain amount of time on the clock? Is it 3 possessions? Is it just in the half court? How much do you feel is proper for this time of year? And then as that kind of tailors then to the games. So when, let's say that you play next Thursday or next Friday, will that change at all, the amount of 5-on-5 you do as you get closer to that game?
I'll let someone else go first. I'll chime in, but let's let our guests go first there.
For us, I mean, it depends on what we're working on that day. We'll do some 5-on-5. A lot of our defensive work is 4v4, working against specific actions. I might come in and say, hey, today we're 5-on-5. We're defending. We code ball screens. We call a green. If we go over, it's a green. If we trap it, it's a red. If we go under, it's a yellow. And I say, hey, today we're doing side ball screens. We're yellow everything, and we're gonna protect against the spin action behind or the shake action behind. So for us, and then if I feel like we're not getting that backside drop playing 4v4, I'll go 5v5 defensively, just to make sure we get that backside drop on. And it's missed a lot. That third slide is missed a lot in high school, but even more so, we'll do advantage drills where we'll create the advantage where the defender's behind the offensive guy, and we'll work on baseline drops. And it depends on really if we're 4v4 or 5v5. And then offensively, it's always 3 possession most of the time, just so we can stop, fine tune, do the micro versus the macro. This time of year, everything's micro for us.
I would say the same thing. You know, I'm thinking back to high school. In high school, you've got a pretty good idea when the brackets come out. You've got a pretty good idea of what goes on in your classification. And, you know, you may never tell your players that what you're going to face in 2 weeks, but you can be working on the commonalities and doing those little micro things. So for us, you know, it's been boxing out and defensive transition. We're really undersized this year due to a couple of different factors. And so those things are really huge for us. And so we outnumbered both of those things today in practice. We didn't do it for very long, but we were really sharp about what we did. And I know that if we keep going through the playoffs, that's going to be the key factor that keeps us in games.
Yeah, I would say for me, my answer for how much 5-on-5 would depend on sort of like, we kind of either this time of year did a 90-minute basketball only practice where I got 90 minutes with my players on like a Thursday, let's say, if we're playing on a Friday. On Wednesday, I would have 2-hour window. So I might, because we're 2 days out, I might go 30 minutes longer just because we got another day of recovery, shorten it on Thursday, walk through type thing on game day. So for me, 5-on-5, when we had a 90-minute practice, would be about 12 minutes of what I called our transition block at the beginning of our practice. Right after dynamic warm-up, stretching, movement, agility, stuff like that, we're going right to full court transition. That, for me, most of the time, especially at this time of the year, was 5v5. Here, they're back, things like that. Maybe we would start with an offensive possession. Here, they're back, something like that. If we were in a day where we have 2-hour practice, I would probably do 20 minutes of that at the very beginning of practice. But that's just a big part of what we did was our transition O and flowing from transition to half court O. And then also, you know, if you got the defense who in turn is working transition defense and things like that all at the same time. At the end of practice, so typically my workflow was 5v5 transition block. Then we would adjourn, if you will, to do some, maybe guard forward breakdowns. And then we would do one-on-one, 2-on-2, 3-on-3, 4-on-4. At the end of that, on some days, we might get all the way back up to 5-on-5. For example, on Wednesdays, I tried to at least once a week to go over some special situations, play a little special situation, best 2 out of 3, starters versus backups, or, this group versus that group, something like that, to review kind of when we're going to call a timeout, when we're going to foul, what are we going to do, up 3, down 3, this and that, baseline out of bounds, down 1, things like that. I would also sometimes, if I knew kind of with a certain degree of certainty there at the end, when we would go back up after 2-on-2, 3-on-3, 4-on-4, 5-on-5, if I knew we were going to play a team that played zone or that pressed or pressed, either one, I like to work on it in 5-on-5, because I kind of think in both of those, in your zone offense and presso, you kind of need all 5 parts to really get a decent picture. So I tended to do that, maybe 10 minutes or so at the end of practice to get possessions where we're facing, whether it be a diamond press, a 2-2-1, something like that. Or if we're going to play a zone team, like we know they play zone, they're going to play it the whole game. We would use that time to sort of brush up on ZO.
I'll summarize everything with just a drill, because probably coaches that are listening want something drill, practice, something to take. So this is something that worked well for us. We've been working this week on about 4 or 5 different things, like really emphasizing 4 or 5 different things. So our drill today was, we basically played 3 possessions. So we started with an out of bounds. So that helped us with our blobs. So they ran a blob, and then they transitioned to the other end with one of our ATOs that we run. And then they came back. If they made the basket, then they worked on their press, which is something else that we've been working on for the postseason. And then they transitioned back into the half court. We've been working on half court and playing basically the right kind of defense with a young team, help, whatever. So we basically transitioned back into 5-on-5. Defense was focusing on the things that we worked on there. And then the offense was focusing on either another ATO or was just running our half court offense. And with all of that, transition offense has really been a key this entire week. And so we basically emphasize that anytime we switch sides of the floor. So typically somebody will say, well, we just run 3 possessions. Yeah, but what are you doing in the 3 possessions? And I think that you can really emphasize, kind of use something like that to put together everything. And we have a game tomorrow, so we didn't want to just put 10 minutes on the clock and, all right, let's just play for 10 minutes and run up and down the floor and kill each other and be exhausted for our game tomorrow. So maybe that'll give some coaches some ideas on things about potential drill that they could use with that. So spicing up your 3 possessions. All right. So we're going to do something here. This is a segment at a new segment that we're going to be doing. It's called Beyond the Scoreboard. And this is presented by our newest sponsor, Sideline Interactive. You may be wanting to increase your revenue for your sports program, or to improve your fan experience, or maybe it's just time to replace an old scoreboard that's been there since the late 90s. So Sideline Interactive is the leading manufacturer of scoring tables and video display boards for high schools and colleges around the country. You can find out more about Sideline Interactive at sidelineinteractive.com. So this is how it's going to work. I didn't want to prep the coaches for this beforehand, because I wanted genuine, off the cuff. So if you need to pause for a second, coaches, and think about this before you spit out your answer, then feel free. I'm going to start with an easy one. So the one that everybody has been asking, or everybody talks about every time it happens on television. Your team is up 3 with less than 10 seconds left. The other team is in the bonus. Do you foul and send them to the line, or do you play it out and risk giving up a 3? So while you're thinking about that, or probably since it's something that you've already addressed before, I don't want you to just tell me the short answer, but maybe answer this in response to the team that you have this year. Or this, if it's something that it doesn't matter, if it would, any team that you ever had, it wouldn't ever change, that could be fine as well, but tell us that as well. So that's the scenario. What would you do? Coach Whitehart, do you want me to start with you, or do you want me to make Coach Uwarow go here?
No, I'm good here.
All right.
We're gonna
okay,
press,
what you got?
We're gonna press up. We're gonna make you put it on the floor, attack the basket. We're not going to give up the three. We're going to pressure you into a drive line. Plenty of help on the backside to make sure there's no throw out or kicks. But I'm not going to put you on the free throw line to get points. When I feel like if we do our job, we can defend. And if there's a missed shot, we can rebound and box out. But I'm not just going to put you on the line to give myself an opportunity to give you points.
All right. Coach Uwarow, same, different?
Mine's the same, and it's because Coach Fitzgerald started on Twitter a few years ago. He did foul or defend for a whole year and created a poll, and I was of that opinion. And once you lose that way once, like what Allen said, your guy doesn't get a box out or it takes a freak bounce and they're able to get it and put it right back up. If you lose that way once, then it's going to stick in your craw and you're going to try to defend from then on out. So I have the same reasoning that he does, and I didn't always have that reasoning, but I've become wiser through pain.
Randy, you got a response on this one, or you want me to go on to the next one?
Can I just give a short one? I'm probably still a foul guy.
Okay.
I'm probably still the foul guy. It's worked out for me. I haven't been. It didn't get my heart broken that I recall. So I would probably still be a foul guy.
All right. Okay. All right. Here's the next one. This one's a little bit longer. If I confuse you, I can go back and read it again. Okay. So let's just say that there's 12 seconds left in the game, and your team is down 4. Your player is fouled. So you guys were down 4, and your player is fouled on a 3-point attempt. So he goes to the line with your team down 4. But the problem is he misses the first 2 attempts. Do you miss the third and try to get a tip in or get the ball back? Or do you go ahead and make the free throw and now you're down 3 and there's still potentially the possibility of getting the ball back, but you're down basically 2 possessions with 10 seconds left in the game?
I'm going to go with make it and extend the game.
Okay. All right. Everybody's in agreement with that one. That was not as hard as I thought it was.
No, I full disclosure, I can see what Tony's reading here, so I may be cheating. Burton and Allen can't. So I was reading ahead. Sorry, but I'm probably going to make it and try to extend the game a little bit.
I will say that if you're going to have that philosophy, I think you need to practice that. I mean, throwing in these situations during a game should never be. That's not a really winning strategy. And so if that is going to be your philosophy, either one of these, and you're going to stick with it, then you need to practice it. It's very hard to make special situations game-like in practice, but I think you've got to give it a shot.
Mm-hmm.
Coach Whitehart, same? Anything? Okay.
Yeah,
right.
I mean, we drill for things like that. So, I mean, we make that decision in September, not in February.
Mm-hmm. Right. Okay, so here's one that you, I'm sure, already have a decision on. Some coaches don't. I think this is one that we see it from time to time act out in college basketball games, and people act like they would have done the same thing or done something differently, but I question whether or not that's the case. So your opponent scores with 12 seconds left, and your team now is down 2, so it's 72-70. You're losing right now. Do you call a timeout and draw up a play, or do you let them play?
For me, it depends on our scout and our opponent. Honestly, I mean, in our scout, if it shows that out of a timeout they might switch defenses or they're prone not to do that, we'll go ahead and attack. But if it shows that, that they're going to maybe change defenses and really junk it up, it goes on our scout. I mean, we really put a lot of time and effort into prep work. So we kind of know those answers before we get to that point.
Would you maybe wait and call a timeout after you get the ball in and bring it up half court if you're like what you see maybe on the defensive wise too? Yeah,
we'll call a jet call, and we'll get it half court as quickly as possible and get the timeout.
Does any of that change based off of the age of your team, or not really?
Yes, it does for me.
Okay.
Are we talking late? Are we talking late season, like this time of year, like late season?
Yeah, let's talk like playoffs
for tonight, right?
Let's talk like playoffs.
I'm
the first time that I saw this happen was in 1999 with Duke and Connecticut, and Trajan Langdon and no timeout and to the basket. And for the last 25 years or however long that is, I'm anticipating it happening on a team that I coach. Actually, it did happen. It happened in the national championship game 3 years ago with Burton and I, now that I think about it. So I have seen this twice in real life.
I'm probably more like I hate timeouts. Like I wish basketball was like soccer. I really do. Like if we had no timeouts, I'd be okay. I'd be totally fine with that, like soccer. Like if they just said, you
Randy,
never
like
get
me.
it. I hate them. I hate them. I really do.
My assistants wear me out.
Like I think it would actually make coaches better coaches. Just like a shot clock would make coaches better coaches, because like you got to address some things in practice that you can no longer joystick, and especially like the live ball timeouts, like someone diving on the floor and the coach gets to bail them out. Like how candy ass is that? Like that. I hate that. Like I hate timeouts. So I'm definitely I'm 99% going to let my team play.
All right.
As a pressure man-to-man coach, I actually preferred when our opponents called the timeout, because now it's 5v4 us. They got a girl inbound in the ball, and we're already denying aggressive and really an aggressive defensive team. Now we're 5-on-4 with you have to get the ball in. So you volunteer, you by calling the timeout, you voluntarily put yourself down 4v5 to get the ball in. So I think coaches overlook that, and they're thinking more about the play they're going to run when they get it in. They're going to think about who's going to get the shot, and like you maybe didn't think enough about how it might be hard to kind of get it in, right? Like you're at a numbers disadvantage. So I tended to, unless there was some chaotic thing where the ball was loose and we're just, like I might just like, okay, I need to call a timeout and steady the ship. But like 99% of the time, I kind of let it go.
Randy, I lost my first year as a high school head coach. I lost the state title game, 9 seconds. I'm down 1. I call a timeout. You know what I do? I give their coach time enough to figure out when we cross out court to Travis, and we turned it over.
Yeah, I mean those things. Like Burton said, he's been scarred by the Fowler defend scenario, and those things have a way of like I have an anecdote about delay games. Like I'll never do that. I did that in a regional championship type game one year, and got just said like, let's get this over with, and started delay game, and like just kind of almost like prevent offense, if you will, and it let the other team back in the game, when if we were just kept mashing the gas, probably would have won, and I don't want to have to inbound the ball at a disadvantage.
Yeah, we were in the national championship.
All right, this is the last one that in this.
Ready? We were in the national championship, and my point guard, who had just got us into the championship by having a triple-double in the game before, in the minute we're going against somebody who had just won the past couple national championships, and so I did not want to put somebody who had that kind of pedigree. I didn't want to give them advantage, but on the previous couple plays, he had made terrible decisions, and I really felt like if he ran it, knowing my point guard's personality was he wanted to go 1-on-3 on people. Mm-hmm. Because I knew my personnel, knew my own player's personality, wasn't an X's and O's decision. I'm like, I've got to run a set play that's worked for us all year. They've already proven they can't defend in this game. And so I did it. We actually got the shot that we wanted. He got fouled down low, but he got blocked up top, and the ref only saw the block. And that was it. That was the game. We lost the national championship by a bucket. So I would love to keep it going, but I did call a timeout, and it wasn't a panic timeout. It was, I know what this guy's doing. Mm-hmm. He had a bad swollen ankle, so I know he wasn't. The day before, he could have blown by his guy. That day, he couldn't blow by his guy. Therapy for the 24 hours until the game started. And so I did something that I hadn't done all year, and I would probably make the same decision, but I would say my personality is to keep it live. Don't take a timeout.
Another thing I would add too, that again, this time of year, we've had all off season, full season to prepare. I like to think that I've had my team with the way I emphasize transition offense sort of well schooled. A lot of times I've seen that shot that put the other team up too. They're jumping around excited and we inbound outlet throw it and we're right back on you and score back, like while they're home run trotting, right? Like it's hard for a team who makes the big shot like that to think, there's still time. I've got to get back. I've got to transition D. I got to find my man. So sometimes there's some fruit to pick there by coming right back at them quickly.
I've won a game like that too.
Yeah. Just come right back at them quickly while they're, high-fiving and everyone's jumping and celebrating, thinking they won the game and score back.
This is the last scenario. It's tied to that, so you can kind of keep the same thought flow going. Same scenario, down by 2. It's a playoff game, and it's on a neutral court, so I'm taking out the home-away business that most people will bring into this conversation. Do you go for a 2 to tie it, or do you go for a win, or is it just go for an open shot?
So same scenario. Go ahead. Sorry, Alan.
No. I'm going to get the most sure bucket. I'm not trying to shoot a 3 to win it. I'm going for what we can get, which is our best look. We talk about A's, B's, and C shots. We want an A shot with the game on the line, put it to overtime.
Yeah, we have pistol sets from basically under 10 seconds, and a pistol set will give you a 3, a pick and a roll, a drive to the basket, weak side spotters. It will give you everything, the shake coming up from the back. And so, I really feel like that set in transition, I don't care what they've scouted. There's so many things going and all of that I really think something like that gives you a lot of options. We start off most of our practices with 7-5-3-1 and just going through that. And so that is their warm up. That's their dynamic warm up, is going what we do with 7, what we do with 5, 3, and 1, and they just do it every day. So they could grab the ball out of the basket and go. So I agree with Alan. 3 would not be my preference, but if they collapse on the drive, those guys better be ready to knock it down.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking. If it were a dead ball situation, like maybe their coach called a timeout or something, and I do have a chance, I would maybe get to use a play or some sort of game winner or end of game thing or something. I usually I was attracted to sets or baseline out of bounds or something in this scenario that sort of like option 1 was an easy 2. Like, screen the screener, right? Like we're gonna option 1 is okay, we'll play for the tie, the shot near the basket. They take that away. What then go for the win, right? Like, so option 2 might be a 3-point attempt. So something like that, like we'll screen the screener, stagger, wrap, screen the second screener, something like that. Just anything where we got 2 options, the first being the 2-pointer, the second being, hey, out of time, might as well try to win it, right? Like that sort of thing. But that's probably my answer there.
So let me finish with this. There are a lot of coaches, and part of the reason why I did that segment was because these things are often talked about on Twitter, and everybody thinks that they know what they're going to do. But the responses that the 3 of you just gave me clearly showed that you're more solidified in what you believe when you actually have to go through it. And sometimes those things change after you face or encounter something that changes your mind on it or further solidifies what you thought.
Breaks your heart.
Or breaks your heart, right?
Yeah.
So my question to you is the last thing. If in like 30 seconds, 45 seconds, because a lot of the people that pay attention, according to who's responding to me on Twitter, are a lot of younger coaches or coaches who maybe haven't faced a lot of these things so far. So for the young coach who's listening, or the inexperienced that just hasn't been through it yet, the piece of advice that you would give to them maybe something that you learned early on. It could be a huge thought. It could be a very specific thing. As they enter the playoff season, what piece of advice would you give for them in relation to practice, to games, whatever you want it is, or something that you wish somebody had told you, or you would go back and tell yourself regarding this time of year and the preparation required to have success with your team in the playoffs?
Mine's simple. You are who you are, so be who you are.
Mm-hmm.
I would echo what Alan said earlier, but make pressure decisions in non-pressure times. You should know before your first practice in October what you're going to do, and that's going to change. I mean, you may think you know, and it may change, but you shouldn't be figuring out what you're going to do in February either. So make pressure decisions in non-pressure times. And one thing Morgan Wooten always said was, your practice, part of your practice goal should be to break the other team's practice habits. And so Alan said he was working on a few wrinkles and doing that kind of stuff. And I'm sure that this isn't the first time that his guys have looked at those wrinkles, but it's what he's emphasizing right now. And so maybe if you play 2-3 zone, maybe you track the baseline when you don't normally, and you just do that off of a timeout. Last thing I would say is your special situations can get you easy points. So figure out a way to maybe just do your blobs out of a different alignment. If you do 4 across the baseline, start off at 4 across the free throw line and get into the exact same action, or come out of a box set. Just do something that is easy for your guys to do, but is also surprising for the other team. And I think just baseline out of bounds alignment is one simple way to do that.
I would say, based on my experience in the postseason, that when the pressure's on and it's eliminate, win in advance, lose and go home, you're going to crutch or lean on your base stuff. You're gonna have this thick, long list of plays or whatever, but like what do you trust the most is your base stuff, the thing that your kids have been doing since junior high. That's what's going to get you to the next round. Wrinkles don't win championships. You're being extraordinarily good at your base stuff gets you to the next round.
Wish I would have had you guys when I was younger, but hopefully others will benefit from that.
Real quick question?
Sure.
Before we go, because I did have a question I wanted to add to the conversation. In bracket play, I'm talking about for you guys, the national tournament, for Alan and myself, the high school state playoffs. You're in bracket play. This is something I get from coaches, a question I get, like, how do I balance sort of like looking ahead versus, like, you get what I'm asking? Like, we know if we win, we got to play to that team or that team. So, and it might be quick, like the next day or 2 days, and we got to travel 500 miles here in Texas to do it. Like the how do you balance the kind of like don't focus on anything other than the next opponent versus like, hey man, when we win, we got Tuesday to get ready, Wednesday to practice, Friday to how do you balance that? And all the possibilities, like we don't know who we're going to play. It could be this team or that team. So how do you balance that?
I pre-gather. I gather all the information that I need, but I don't look at it until we handle our business, which is, right in front of us. But I have all of that ready to go if that time comes. I don't look ahead by any means, but I'm prepared for when that time comes so we can lock in and get it done.
Mm-hmm. Burton?
Yeah, I would say we're the
There's
same.
something that we did this year.
Go ahead.
Yeah, there's something that we did this year that I'm doing now because Burton's kind of given me some of the scouting. I kind of just head it. It's a team effort, but it's something that he had encouraged me to do a couple of years ago. And he's heard me make this comment to him before. When I am frustrated during the game and I look at him and say, I'm not doing any more scouts. They don't pay attention to anything that we say anyways. and that's just a frustration comment. But the truth of the matter was, it was kind of my screw up anyways. why do I need to be the person that's taking the ownership for it? Like, this is a team thing anyways. And so we give it to our different captains groups. And so I actually handed these out today. We play a team on Thursday next week, and hopefully we win. And then we play again Friday, and then hopefully we play in the championship game on Saturday. And I already divvied out to the different groups. You're responsible for Friday's opponent. You're responsible for Saturday's opponent. And you're responsible or Friday's opponent, and you're responsible for Saturday's opponent. And so it's not actually me preparing for it. It's us preparing for it. And I think in the few games that we've done it so far this year that it's worked a whole lot better, and especially for younger players, just so that they understand what goes into it, and so that they're able to they're better prepared for it, and they hold each other more accountable to it than when I'm the one that prepares for it anyways.
Awesome. Thanks.
They'll talk through it at practice. The way that we always want to have a player-led team is why I started doing that. I started doing that in high school, and I wasn't going to just leave it totally up to them in high school, but you want a player-led team. Since they've started doing more of this year, they will talk in practice while we're doing a drill. Maybe we're not on the end that they're on. They'll start talking about, this is what number 23 likes to do when he catches it. He just wants to catch and go. And those are little things that a coach wouldn't have in a scouting report exactly like that, but they're putting it in their own language and they're relaying it to their teammates. And we tuned our coaches out when we were in high school a little bit, and our players tune us out. And I think they don't tune each other out quite as easily as they tune us out sometimes.
Yeah, awesome. This is an area, the scouting part of coaching. I mean, there's different coaching skills that we all have to have, and that's an area that I would say is a weakness of mine. I never really flex that muscle enough to make it strong, really. I just didn't really find that part of the job that interesting, but it's definitely something I need to get better at and ask people like you guys more and more questions. So thank you.
I'm just the opposite. I love scouting.
Yeah.
I love it.
I like going to watch games and stopping at barbecue joints on the way home and stuff like that. I like doing that, but
well, we'll go ahead and
I guess maybe
now
like the style that I played, like it really didn't.
Yeah.
Just whatever. They're gonna either play man or zone. That's about all I wanted to know.
Well, we'll go ahead and end it here so that Coach Whitehart can get back to scouting.
Yes, go ahead. Good luck, Coach.
Appreciate it.
I appreciate all of those who joined us this week. If you missed any part of this live show, you can go back and watch or listen to any part. Visit Radius Athletics on YouTube to see the full interview, or you can go to any podcast platform and search A Quick Timeout, and there you'll find the audio version of the show. As a matter of fact, tomorrow morning we have dropping last week's live show that we did. You can find that on A Quick Timeout podcast website. For Randy Sherman, Allen Whitehart, and Burton Uwarow, I'm Tony Miller. We'll talk to you again next Friday on our next episode of Hoops Forum.